Our colleagues have returned from Lisbon to Korea, and unfortunately, an incident has occurred that clearly demonstrates that we must not let our guard down for even a second. According to information circulating on Dispatch, an individual posing as a reporter tried to approach Jimin. Fortunately, the Korean reporter stopped and confronted him before he could, preventing any contact. As a result, the situation didn't escalate, but the fact that someone even attempted this is extremely concerning. And what's most concerning is that this isn't the first time this person has acted like this. We're not talking about an isolated incident or an accidental misunderstanding. Therefore, there's no reason why they shouldn't increase their security when he travels with a group. This is even more concerning when we consider what could happen. During a world tour, everything will be more widespread with more people and more exposure, and more risks. That's why it's important to act now and not wait for something truly serious to happen before reacting. Keep Jimin safe. Translation of what's heard in the video. Bust in silhouette, a foreign national tried to pretend to be a reporter to approach Jimin, but was stopped before he could. It doesn't matter if you're a fan or a foreign national, stay away from him. And we repeat it because it's important to be clear. We don't know what this person's true intentions are. But after the threats Jimin has received in recent days, especially from extremist Jikookers, situations like this cannot and should not be ignored. Jimin's safety is a priority and should be treated as such, always. We have photos of Jimin and Jungkook at the airport in Korea. Honestly, it's tiring to see the same pattern over and over again. A news story breaks, a report comes out, and then a bizarre, poorly crafted, or even manipulated translation spreads, claiming that Dispatch said the harassing fan was a fan.
Taeyong.
That's not true. This isn't an interpretation. This isn't a debate. This isn't everyone gets what they want. Airports are supposed to be short layovers. Arrive, leave, and then be done. But for BTS, especially Jimin, the airport has once again become a suffocating space. And this time, the feeling of déjà vu feels all too real. A while ago, the public was still talking about the incident involving Jungkook, the crowd that was too close, the incessant gaze of cameras, the personal space violated without permission. Many fans hoped that would be the last. Unfortunately, that hope was shattered once again. Now, Jimin's name was at the center of concern. Videos and reports circulating on social media showed the airport atmosphere spiraling out of control once again. From the outside, it might have looked like fan enthusiasm. But upon closer inspection, something felt wrong. Too close, too pushy, too bold. Jimin walked at a brisk pace, surrounded by security, yet still not completely protected from the seemingly limitless onslaught. Cameras zoomed in from an unnatural distance. Some followed his path with excessive intensity. And there were small moments, stares, gestures, facial expressions that made many wonder, is this still fandom? Or has it turned into stalking? What made the situation even more tense was the pattern that was starting to feel familiar. Not once, not twice. After Jungkook, now Jimin. 2 members, 2 incidents. 1 place, the airport. Fans began to speculate. Was this the work of a specific individual deliberately following their schedule? Or had there been an internal information leak that made BTS's movements too predictable? These questions circulated without definitive answers, only adding to the anxiety. On the other hand, ARMY reactions were divided. Many were angry, many were disappointed, and quite a few felt fear, not just for Jimin but for all the BTS members. Because if this pattern continued to repeat itself, who would be the next target? Most distressingly, Jimin never asked for this. No idol signs a contract to lose their sense of security. Popularity shouldn't mean losing the right to personal space. The airport once again became a symbol of old, unresolved issues. And this time, the spotlight wasn't on airport fashion or sweet smiles for the camera. The spotlight was on one big question hanging in the air. How long will this be allowed to continue? For now, all that remained were worries, increasingly heated whispers, and the hope that this incident wouldn't escalate into something more dangerous. Because one thing was clear, this wasn't just a rumor. This was a pattern. And patterns like these rarely end well if ignored. What made many even more uneasy was Jimin's own reaction, or rather, the lack thereof. There was no official statement. There was no public clarification. But his body language spoke louder than words. In some circulating footage, Jimin appeared much quieter. His smiles were brief. Eye contact was quickly averted. He looked down, as if trying to minimize his presence amidst the increasingly pressing crowd. For longtime fans, this small change was not something to be ignored. And this is where the gossip began to grow. Some ARMY began to connect this incident to previous incidents involving Jungkook. The pattern was too similar to be a coincidence. The close timing of their appearances. The increased intensity of the stalking. In fact, some fan accounts speculated that the same perpetrator might be involved, or, at least, come from the same circle. This speculation, of course, has not been proven. But when too many pieces of the puzzle seem to fit together, it's hard not to put it together. Even more worrying, several eyewitnesses reported that the situation at the airport this time nearly spiraled out of control. The shouts that were too close, the small, seemingly trivial pushes, and the constant breach of the safe distance, as if Jimin were not a human being, but an object of spectacle. Many began to ask, is security at the airport still adequate? Did the agency truly realize the level of risk the members faced? Or, most poignantly, had the warnings never truly been heard? Armies around the world began to speak out louder. Protection hashtags resurfaced. Angry messages, mixed with anxiety, filled their timelines. Not because of the drama, but because of genuine fear. When two prominent members like Jungkook and Jimin are targeted, the line between fanatic fan and dangerous stalker feels increasingly thin. And beneath all this, there was one feeling that was hard to ignore: helplessness. Fans could only watch from a screen. Jimin had to keep going, remain professional, remain calm, in a situation that was clearly not normal. The airport, once again, was more than just a transit point. It had become a stage for risk. And if this continued, the public would no longer be asking if it was dangerous, but rather when something more serious would happen. For now, there were no definitive answers. All that remained were lingering traces of tension, growing rumors, and one simple hope from everyone who cared about BTS: stop this before it was too late. Some fans who were at the location claimed to have seen certain people who did not look like BTS fans.